All right, let's jump right into this explainer because this story is absolutely wild. Imagine you're a reincarnated gamer, right? You wake up, open your eyes, and you are right in the middle of a medieval fantasy world, and it is absolute chaos. A goblin invasion is literally tearing through a local farming village. Suddenly, the system pops up asking you to choose your character class. So what do? Do you pick a mighty warrior? Maybe a devastating mage? Nope. Our protagonist, Alan, boldly selects the crafter class. Now, in a world where literally everyone relies on swords and magic, the crafter is universally mocked. People consider it completely useless. But Alan, oh, he's about to show them exactly why they are dead wrong.
So instead of grabbing a pitchfork like a normal villager, Alan uses his modern world knowledge combined with his new crafter ability to materialize a fully loaded assault rifle right out of thin air, and he just calmly guns down the entire goblin horde. It's crazy. And then a giant armored goblin boss shows up. Does Alan flinch? Not even a little bit. He crafts a literal rocket launcher and completely obliterates the boss in a single shot. The NPCs around him are just left standing there in absolute jaw-dropped shock.
I mean, this totally shatters the world's expectations. Everybody thinks crafters just, make slightly sharper swords or maybe forge some horseshoes, but Alan is a one-man modern military arsenal. And the best part is, he doesn't even keep all the fun to himself. He instantly starts crafting and handing out machine guns to the local farmers, basically turning helpless villagers into a devastating firing squad. It completely breaks every single rule of this fantasy world.
And word travels fast when you're a one-man army. To put his progress into perspective, his leveling speed is just insane. Day 1, he's wiping out goblins. By day 2, he's shattering a level 20 rock golem. Day 3, he casually freezes a level 27 sandworm boss. So by the time day 4 rolls around, he walks into the Adventurers Guild at just level 15, and he leaves the seasoned executives completely speechless. The guild's magic mirrors are literally glitching out, trying to process how a novice crafter is putting up the kind of damage numbers you'd expect from a level 50 veteran.
But you're probably wondering, how is he actually pulling this off? Well, it all comes down to him exploiting these brilliant lit RPG mechanics. He isn't just summoning normal guns. He figures out that he can use magic stones dropped by defeated monsters as fuel and as modifiers for his weapons. It's a simple 3-step process. Step 1, materialize the weapon. Step 2, embed the magic stone. Step 3, unleash devastating elemental damage. For example, he takes a golem's magic stone and uses it to give his rifle an armor-piercing effect. That lets him completely bypass the absolute physical defense of that level 20 rock golem we just talked about. It is pure tactical genius.
So Alan faces his first real public test at a dungeon called the Wolf Mine. He steps up to protect a level 20 priestess named Emma from this notoriously arrogant level 65 bully named Lucas. Lucas takes one look at Alan's low level, mocks him, and challenges him to a dungeon clear speed duel, fully assuming this random crafter is going to get humiliated or even killed. But Alan doesn't just accept the challenge. He confidently struts into the dungeon and brings the underleveled Emma along for the ride.
Now, Lucas finishes his own run in about an hour, feeling pretty good about himself, only to discover that Alan didn't just survive, he absolutely humiliated him. Lucas is left staring at the dungeon's leaderboard in total denial. He's sweating, murmuring to himself that it's a lie, that it's impossible. It is such a classic lesson in never underestimating the underdog. Alan, a level 15 crafter, had just set a completely unreachable world record using dual-wielded machine guns and some brilliant trap crafting.
And that impossible new speedrun record? 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Under 10 minutes. Alan pulled this off by basically ignoring standard combat altogether. When he and Emma got to the dual werewolf bosses, a king and a queen who are infamous for their terrifying evasion skills, Alan simply crafted massive steel jaws that erupted straight out of the ground, trapping the bosses instantly. He executed them with zero effort. He dropped a record time that literally short-circuited the brains of every veteran adventurer standing outside.
But here's the thing. When you shatter records like that, you draw the wrong kind of attention. Alan's rising fame quickly brings a squad of elite, level 65 stealth assassins right to his doorstep. So, do they stand a chance against him? Not even close. Alan casually wipes them out. He uses a voice-activated recon drone you crafted just to spot their invisible movements, and then he unleashes suppressive fire from a heavy submachine gun. He proves right then and there that his modern weapons easily bypass even the highest-level physical defenses.
Now, watching this entire assassin fight from the shadows is Melissa. She's a highly powerful level 50 sorceress.
and she immediately realizes Alan is exactly the powerhouse she needs. She approaches him and strikes a deal. If he helps her clear the Crystal Sky Castle, which is hands down the most brutal floating dungeon in the realm, to obtain a rare item called the Jade Dragon Orb, she will give him the intel on who exactly sent those assassins after him. Getting into this floating castle usually requires you to pass a strict kingdom ritual that is strictly restricted to players level 40 and above. Alan is only in his 20s at this point. His solution? He literally builds a makeshift hot air balloon from scratch, uses Melissa's fire magic as the burner fuel, and just casually floats right up and past the kingdom's magical barriers. I mean, it is incredibly creative and completely bypasses the system's intended progression path. Once they get inside, the level gap is stark. You've got Alan at level 24, taking on bosses meant for level 50s. And yet, he is the one completely carrying the team. He's crafting elevators and motorboats on the fly to skip over deadly traps like it's just a casual weekend hike. He treats the deadliest dungeon in the entire realm with total ease, while standard high-level teams would be getting completely wiped out by those exact same puzzles. And when it actually comes to combat, Alan's damage numbers are just absurd. Take the Abyss Minotaur and the Crystal Ogre bosses, for example. Alan materializes a rocket launcher that has a base attack power of 16,000, and with his crazy bonuses, it scales to over 30,000. He instantly decimates these mid-dungeon bosses with total surgical precision, leaving Melissa, again, one of the strongest sorceresses in the kingdom, just completely speechless at his raw, explosive firepower. But then they reach the final boss of the dungeon, the epic Crystal Dragon. And this is where things get incredibly tense. For the first time, Alan's single-shot heavy weapons are suddenly rendered totally useless. Why? Because this dragon has a strict damage cap per hit. It doesn't matter how powerful Alan's rocket launcher is, the dragon's magical scales just shrug off any excess damage. Add in a massive health pool in a lethal area of effect breath attack called Death Blaze, and Alan is finally backed into a corner. So facing a literal wall of lethal fire, what does Alan do? He doesn't craft a magical shield. No, he crafts a giant red fire extinguisher. He embeds it with a high-tier magic stone and uses the concentrated chemical foam to physically push back the dragon's lethal flames. Once the fire is neutralized, he swaps over to a high-speed Gatling gun, using its massive rate of fire to bypass that damage cap entirely, shredding the dragon's health bar down to 0 in seconds. Okay, so with the dragon defeated, Melissa finally drops a massive conspiracy bombshell on Alan. It turns out a secret, highly corrupt faction within the Adventurers Guild is the one intentionally sending assassins after overpowered adventurers like Alan. Their secret true motive? They actually want to preserve the Demon King. As long as this war continues, this corrupt elite gets to maintain their vast wealth, their military funding, and their political power. If a hero like Alan actually wins the war, they lose everything. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the biggest monsters aren't hiding in dungeons, they're the ones profiting off the war itself. Realizing he now has a massive target painted on his back, Alan decides it's time to lay low. So he joins the Sacred Guardian Clan, which is a rank A defense organization, hoping the sheer size and prestige of the clan will give him some political cover. He gets paired up with 2 earnest but definitely lower-tier adventurers, a veteran named Naoki and a lancer named Hina, for what is supposed to be a super simple beginner-level patrol mission out in the forest. During this mission, Alan decides to be the ultimate wingman. Naoki is desperately in love with Hina and really wants to play the hero, so Alan purposely lowers his weapon damage and pretends to be weak against a massive Forest King boss, letting Naoki take all the spotlight to impress her. But of course, things go terribly wrong, and the boss is about to literally crush them. So Alan secretly saves their lives with a high-powered, invisible sniper shot, making sure Naoki still gets to keep the credit. Well, Alan's plan to lay low completely goes out the window when a massive monster army besieges the frontier city of Beyondar. The entire clan is summoned to defend the walls, and this time, Alan absolutely cannot hold back. He single-handedly turns the tide of the entire war by crafting and arming the city's everyday civilians with rocket launchers. In one perfectly synchronized volley, the civilians instantly vaporize half of the Demon King's army, securing a genuinely historic victory. But that victory, yeah, it is incredibly short-lived, because a really dark twist unravels. Alan observes how the city's leader, Lord Olivia, and her head guard react to his weapons. They aren't cheering, they aren't just impressed, they are terrified of his efficiency. Alan quickly pieces it together. Lord Olivia is actually a high-ranking member of the pro-Demon King faction.
They intentionally isolated him in this frontier city under the guise of a mission, subtly plotting his demise because his weapons pose a literal existential threat to their forever war.
So Alan is now completely surrounded by enemies in a remote city run by the very people trying to kill him. Recognizing the trap, he forces a split from his naive teammates, Naki and Hina, sending them far away just to keep them safe. He steps into the dense forest entirely alone, getting ready to confront Lord Olivia's elite forces and completely dismantle an entire political conspiracy with his own 2 hands. So how is this overpowered crafter going to survive an entire corrupt army? Well, what do you think his next move will be? We'll have to wait to find out.